The second trumpet, what is it, and can we give a good idea of where it would be striking? And so let's start with the verse. And Revelation 8:8, the second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a huge mountain, all ablaze, was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood, a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So that's our factor. That's all we have on this second trumpet judgment. Now, when I think of something fiery, a mountain being thrown into the sea, some people will try to say, well, it could be a nuclear bomb. A nuclear bomb isn't going to do spit when it hits into the sea. It just, we have had nuclear testing off, Bikini Atoll, and we can see videos of those things. And yeah, it does a great water show, but they have Navy ships right beside them. The ships don't sink. So that's not going to sink 1/3 of the ships. What really hits here is either an asteroid or a comet coming and striking the Earth. Now that fits. That's something about the size of a mountain coming down, and it can do tremendous devastation. And so let's look at what we have here. Now, in my opinion, and that's just my opinion, I think it's going to strike the Pacific Ocean. But let me give you an idea of why. 1/3 of the ships are destroyed, and 1/3 of the fish that die. Now, 70% of the world's fishing total comes from the Pacific Ocean. There are about 4 million boats in the world. This is about 52,000 merchant ships and 40,000 fishing boats over 100 tons. About 1/3 of all merchant ships are owned by just Japan, China, Taiwan, and Korea. 4 countries own the 1/3 of all those ships. What's consistent with that? It's in the Pacific Ocean. All of those would be hit by the Pacific Ocean. So let's look at what we really have here. And I'll give you a cheesy, super cheesy video clip from the movie Deep Impact, which will give you an idea of what would happen should, I guess, just a visual of what would happen from an asteroid strike. Now, after that, what we have is this. 1/3, now let's try to actually look at it scientifically after we've done the other. We have this clue of the water turning to blood. Okay. Now, when something like that were to strike the water from an asteroid or a comet, studies conducted recently have concluded that when an asteroid strikes water, it creates an explosion which sends fragments back into the atmosphere, which then fall back to the Earth. These fragments create silica glass and nitrous oxide. The nitrous oxide creates a deadly algal bloom, which then kills fish and marine life. That's a finding from the American Geophysical Union lead author Devon Parkos. The usual term for that bloom is red tide. So it would turn the water red, okay? But that is not a factor of why I think we would actually have 1/3 of the fish die. The algae bloom is just going to be in a very limited zone around that impact strike. What you have when you have something that large come and striking the Earth, and it is striking incredibly fast. It actually, and they've done a secondary study on this, or another study that's looked at this, and what they came up with an asteroid of only 2/3 of a mile in diameter, 2/3. So it's not a big thing. 2/3 of a mile, would it be considered a mountain? I think that'd be considered a mountain. When it hits the water, and remember, sound travels faster in water than on air. In air, it's about 700, it depends on what your conditions are, but it's about 700 miles an hour. In the water, it's 3,300 miles per hour. Now, I'm sure you've all seen videos of somebody taking a hand grenade and throwing it in the water, and it kills all the fish because it blasts their swim bladder. An asteroid that would strike, and again, this is just 2/3 of a mile in diameter. When it strikes the water, it actually evaporates 11 miles worth of ocean all the way to the floor of the ocean, going down 3 miles. That's what it hits immediately, just wipes immediately. That segment of 11 miles is gone. It's just evaporated. It's striking with the equivalency of 60,000 megatons of TNT. Now, what's 60,000 megatons mean? I mean, it's just a number. But the bomb, all the bombs deployed during World War II, including the 2 atomic bombs, were only 3 megatons. 3 megatons, 60,000 megatons. One's much larger than the other. The atomic bomb that detonated Hiroshima was only 15 kilotons. Okay? All the bombs in World War II, both sides, only totaled 3 megatons. This is 60,000 megatons. So the shock wave that goes out is going to kill all the fish, and probably even extending into the Indian Ocean, and like I said, Pacific. I think it would just knock them out. And so I don't think it's got an issue with the killing of the fish. That's an easy thing. It's got an issue. One of the things we're looking at is what would be the water damage there. Now, most people will try to say, oh, well, it would create a tidal wave. No, a tidal wave, what it does is throw in like a rock into a river. It makes a ploop, and then it creates ripples, and they decrease as they go out. But this particular issue, because it is actually impacting the crust, if it shatters the crust, which it certainly should, then if it creates an indentation, then you have a tidal wave. Tidal wave is created from an earthquake, so a shift. You know, if one side of the ocean floor goes down where another goes up, you have actually raised all this water, and that's creating the tidal wave. Throwing the asteroid in without the shift, without that earthquake segment in there, is going to dissipate as it goes out. So it's got to almost crack the floor of the ocean, the crust underneath there. And as long as it does that, then you have a raising, and once you have a raising, then you create a tidal wave. Now, again, could you put that in the Atlantic Ocean? Yes. Are you going to hit all 1/3 ships? No. There's just not that many ships in the Atlantic Ocean. Realistically, you're looking at Pacific to get that 1/3 of ships. And that's not saying, and again, most of that's going to be from a tidal wave, you would think. So it's pretty much telling you it's got to crack the crust a little bit to do that. Now, one of the things we are not told in the second trumpet is the human toll. So, but if we have something that is wiping out that many ships, you can imagine that a tsunami would be a very high tsunami, and entire coastal communities in some countries would be eliminated with a tsunami of height of just 400 feet. Philippines, the east coast of the west coast of the United States, coastal Japan, coastal China, northern Australia, they would all be devastated. And again, this is just one thing, and it's waiting for the third trumpet coming right behind it, which would be wormwood. But this will give us an idea of, again, to hit the fish, it could be Atlantic Ocean or Pacific, but more likely Pacific because it's got more movement available. Again, it's a sound wave that's going to shatter their swim bladders, which is going to kill the fish. And again, it will create the red tide, so you do have the water going red, blood red, but that's not saying that's what killed him. It fits better in that particular area. And I think that's really all I need to do.